Hey guys, Amazon Prime's big deal days are just around the corner, so I'm here to help you figure out which laptops are a good deal and which ones you should actually stay away from. Stay tuned for more. Okay, so I don't know how many of you actually pay attention to news or upcoming articles or what websites you get your stuff from, but one of the top tech websites out there is Engadget. Engadget actually came out with a list of laptops about 8 hours ago that are going on Amazon Prime Day deals. So today, that's what I'm actually going to be covering is the Engadget deals, or the best Amazon Prime Day laptop deals from Engadget's perspective. Okay, so to start out with, there's going to be some pretty good stuff on here. There's going to be some stuff that's just not going to be worth your while. For the most part, I think I'm going to skip over Apple because Apple isn't really ever that good of a deal. When it comes to Prime Day deals and things like that, it's meh, you know. One thing I will say is $899 for a MacBook Air. That's actually kind of expensive. Typical deal that you'll get on a MacBook Air. If you check Best Buy on a regular basis, you can sometimes get them for as low as $699. So that's why I'm going to steer clear of the Apple stuff. But I am going to go through the Windows or Microsoft laptops that are going to be a good deal for you and things I think that you might actually enjoy. To start out with, they throw out there an HP Ultrabook 14-inch, and it's $280. Now, for those of you who are interested in getting a computer that is budget-friendly and decent quality and, doesn't actually, isn't something that you have to worry about, this isn't that machine. And the reason why I want to tell you is they're going to put stuff on this Chromebook, or not this Chromebook, they're going to put stuff on this laptop that make it look like, or on the ad for this laptop that make it look like it's an absolute steal of a deal, okay? It's not. I'll tell you that much. Basically, what you're getting here when you look at this computer, if you read the description carefully, is for $279.98, you are getting a rose gold Ultrabook 14 laptop with free Microsoft 365, Intel 4-core CPU, a 1.2 terabytes of storage, 128 gigs on board with 128 gig external, plus 1 terabyte hard drive, 8 gigs of RAM, Windows 11 without earphones. Now, I don't know the without earphone thing. I'm guessing that means that the laptop probably doesn't have a headphone jack on it somewhere. The reason that this looks like such a good deal is, well, because guys, you're basically buying a Microsoft Chromebook. When you buy something like this, what you're really getting is a machine with a really basic processor. If you look down here, the processor on this is an Intel N100. It's the same processor that they'll go ahead and put in like a Chromebook or, this is kind of reminiscent of the netbooks back in the day when they had those. So really what you want to pay attention to is, okay, what are you really getting? The Intel N100, terrible processor, not really a good deal. 8 gigs of RAM, that's bog standard for a laptop these days. That's the base that you should have anyway. Every laptop that's running Windows 11 should come with 8 gigs of RAM. No exceptions. None whatsoever. The color, if rose gold's your thing, whatever. Cool. And then it's a 14-inch screen. It's kind of on the smaller size. So if you don't really care about having a smaller computer, it could be good for you. But the big kicker, the thing I really want to talk about is the storage on this laptop. This laptop says that it has 1.2 terabytes of storage and free Microsoft 365. Okay. First of all, every laptop has free Microsoft 365. It comes by default with Microsoft 365 free for, I think it's like 60 or 90 days, because that's just how it is. I don't know if they just prepaid a year of a subscription for you, but Office 365, that's a subscription, okay? So if you're, sorry, there's a stupid fruit fly in here. So if you're buying this laptop, you're just getting maybe a slight bit of a prepaid subscription that they're going to try to bill you annually for anyway. So next year, you could wind up having to pay more for this laptop just to have Microsoft Office on it, which is not ideal. Second, your storage. Okay, your storage is not actually 1.2 terabytes. It's 128 gigabytes. All right? That OneDrive that you're paying, not that you're paying for, but that OneDrive 1 terabyte that you get is also a subscription that you will be billed for in the future. So be careful with this one. This is not that good of a deal. A lot of people are going to go out and jump on this, and then they're going to come back and say, oh, well, they said that this was a good deal. It is for some people. If you just like surfing the web, this laptop would be ideal for you. Don't buy it with the premise that you're going to be able to surf the web and write a Word doc and listen to music at the same time. It's not the kind of laptop you buy to do a research paper if you're a college student. It's also not the kind of laptop that you use to, make videos, that kind of thing. It's realistically the kind of laptop that you use if you like to get on and scroll Facebook or have your phone in a bigger form factor, because on your phone, you're only really ever doing one thing. And in fact, your phone's processor is probably better than this computer, which should say something to you about the true value of this computer. Moving on to the next computer, we have a Lenovo IdeaPad 1i. And again, we have kind of the same situation with this one. It's a little bit better of a deal. You can see here, and if you look up there, that it has 12 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of cloud storage, and 256 gig SSD. And it says Intel Core. Okay, Intel Core. If you see just Intel Core and you don't see a Core Ultra or a Core Ultra 5 or a Core Ultra 7 or an i5 or i7, then it's a really basic processor. It's not something you want to own. This is going to be in the same vein as that HP that we just looked at, okay? The HP that we just looked at has an Intel N100. So this is a Core 2 Duo, which means I think this is a dual core processor, if I'm not mistaken. And then the storage on it is slightly better with 256 gigs of solid state drive storage. It's a 15-inch laptop, so it's a slightly larger form factor. And it's claiming that it has an 11-hour battery. I kind of doubt that. But I mean, it does have a really basic CPU, so I sort of doubt that it's going to, really draw a lot of power unless you're doing more things with it than you should be, which is one application at a time again, because it's that kind of a processor in this computer. It says Microsoft 365 Personal is included. Again, remember, 365. If you see 365, that is always, always, always a subscription, okay? So at best, what you're getting is either a 6-month or a 1-year subscription to Office 365. Not that great of a deal. Again, this is going to be one of those machines that you log on and pay bills with, watch YouTube with, or do things that are larger form factor than, say, your cell phone, So this isn't terrible. It's better than the last one, but is it a good deal? Nah, this is, again, more of like if you had a Chromebook that was Windows with a Windows operating system. That's kind of what this is too. You just get some Microsoft added benefits. So again, this laptop, not really worth it. Not in my opinion. I wouldn't spend my money here. Okay. All right. Moving on from the Lenovo. Also another thing, just throwing this out there. Lenovo's are notoriously hard to get parts for. So if you have any issues with this laptop down the line, just know that for example, if you bring it to me, I'll have to order a part out, and typically those parts are from China because Lenovo machines are made in China. So not only can it take, a little bit of time for it to actually arrive, but it could be more expensive. And then, it's not the ideal situation. So again, moving on from this, we'll go on to the Acer Aspire 3. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Acer laptops, but this one is a little better. Oh my gosh, this fruit fly is obnoxious. Okay, Acer Aspire 3 Slim laptop with lifetime Office 365 for the web, backlit keyboard, Intel Core i3 1305U processor, 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gig SSD, 15.6-inch FHD, Windows 11 Pro without earbuds. Does anybody really care about the earbud thing? Because I don't think there's a whole lot of people these days that aren't using Bluetooth earbuds. So this one is listed at $399. Okay, the fact that this is normally listed at $449, kind of a ripoff. $449 should be a low-end i5 in my opinion, but $399, you can see it has 2.5 stars. So obviously, it's not a laptop that a lot of people like that much. Acer, this is the kind of computer that you could go into Walmart right now and pick up off the shelf, and probably get it for about $250 to $300. Okay, this is an i3, so a Core i3. Excuse me, has a lot better of a processor than what you were getting in the previous two laptops I just reviewed. But it's still just a really entry-level processor. This is still kind of a, you could maybe run 2 apps at once with this one, and you'd be okay. You know, I have an i3 in my Plex machine back here behind me, because an i3 will handle transcoding for Plex with no problem. But that's pretty much all it does. That's pretty much the only purpose that it serves, and it's a 10th gen. So a 1305U is a pretty standard i3 laptop processor. So 16 gigs of RAM, that's great. 16 gigs means that you've got a little bit more power than the baseline, which, like I already previously mentioned, is 8 gigs. And then you get 256 gigs of solid-state drive storage. And then this one actually comes with Windows 11 Pro. And basically what that means is that Windows 11 Pro, the crowning feature of Windows 11 Pro over Windows 11 Home, is that you get remote access to your computer if you really want it, right? So Pro means if you want some of the Pro features, you can actually remote into the laptop from another computer if you wanted to. Will most people be doing that? Probably not. You know, the application for that is typically, from my perspective, which I'm an IT guy, so that makes a lot more sense. Okay, let's just go through some of the listing stuff here and see what's actually in this thing. All right. So this is a little bit confusing. Model name is Aspire, 15.6 inches, color silver, hard disk size says 512 gigabytes. Well, that's weird, isn't it? Because up above it says 256 gigabytes. So what's the real size? All right, there's a discrepancy there. CPU model Core i3, we know that. RAM, 16 gigs of RAM. And then operating system here says Windows 11 Home S Mode. So are we getting Windows 11 Home or are we getting Windows 11 Pro? All right, let's be real with what we're actually getting with this computer so that we can provide our customers a good experience. We got to start picking these things apart. These are Engadget's best deals. So, I mean, I'm not trying to pick on Engadget, but these are what they're saying are the best deals for Prime Day. Okay. Visibly stunning experience, sharp details, and crisp colors on the 15.6 full HD IPS display. Basically, all that means, guys, is that it has a razor-thin bezel, and the screen is 1080p. The HD front-facing camera, Acer's TNR temporal noise reduction technology for high-quality imagery and low-light conditions. It's probably still pretty potato quality. It's probably a 720p camera. All right. Improved thermals with a 78% increase in fan surface area. Enjoy improved thermal system and additional 17% thermal capacity, allowing for longer, more efficient work sessions while not plugged in. This one didn't make any claims about battery life right here in the main description. It does say it down below, 8 hours battery life, full comfy view display, and an ultra thin design. Okay. All right. So on this one, I want to take a look a little bit deeper because this is really the first true laptop that we're looking at. But here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at some reviews because this has 2.5 stars. So this is obviously a terrible computer from some people's perspective. Hang on one second. All right, here we go. Now that we're back in. Okay, so 2.5 stars is basically between these two reviews because it looks like it's not a well-reviewed laptop. The laptop has one review that says not as described. Said keyboard backlight. It is not. Okay, so basically the listing description is inaccurate. We've already kind of picked apart more inaccuracies than that in just our little session here. The other one says easy to set up. I have only about 1 month of use so far. Still learning as I haven't used Windows in 20 years. That doesn't really seem like a fair assessment. So, yeah, 2 reviews. One of them that's terrible, and the other one that is a guy who just hasn't used Windows in 20 years, which, whatever. You know, no big deal. Overall, I would probably say that this is still kind of a poopy deal. You know, you're paying $400 and you really don't know what you're getting. Are you getting 512 gigs of storage or are you getting 256? That makes a difference, especially when it comes to it being solid state storage, because there is a price difference between there. I can go buy a 256 gig drive for $15 if I wanted to, whereas a 512 gig drive is closer to that $30 to $40 price point. So what are you really getting for your money, and is it really worth it, right? A fairly basic processor with a fair bit of RAM at the very least, but it's certainly better than the previous two. Let's move on from the Acer and see what we have next here. The next one we have is a Dell 3530 laptop. I know this one well. Okay, so this is not all in all a very bad computer. This one is pretty good. Okay, this one's pretty good. A Dell 3530 is generally a pretty well-built machine. Dell computers are not terrible. This says a couple different things, though. So let's review what it says. Okay, this is a Dell 3530 laptop, business and home student laptop computer, Intel 10-core i5-1334U, Beat i7-1250U, 120 Hz FHD Vostro laptop, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Windows 11 Pro, 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte PCIe SSD. This is a $650 laptop, guys. This is $650, okay? They say that this laptop normally costs $900. This is normally a $900 PC. All right? That's just not the truth, okay? I don't know why Vostro is suddenly coming out as a thing again for Dell, because Vostro really hasn't been a line that they've promoted for a long time. But I can tell you what material was used to make this computer, and I can tell you that it is not the highest of qualities. Okay, let me do a quick comparison here with another machine. So this is a Dell 3530. It says that it has a Core i5-1334U. I want to just, I'm going to go out here to Best Buy really quick. I'm going to have to blur the political stuff because every time I bring this up, YouTube gets mad because there's political things in my channel. Okay. All right, so we're going to say, God, I'm so tired of this stupid fruit fly. Dell laptop. And then I'm going to pull up the base model that I know of. That usually runs a little bit cheaper than that and is about the same quality. Okay. This is only open box. This is an Inspiron laptop, Core i7 with 16 gigs of memory and a 1 terabyte SSD. This is $530, okay? You're getting a Core i7 with 16 gigs of RAM. Let's go over here to the Ryzen 7 for $499. This is the same quality of laptop build-wise that you're getting with the Vostro. You can see that those are some of the same images, okay? This laptop is cheaply made. This is one of Dell's cheaper laptops, lower end, the plastic kind. And when I say the plastic kind, I literally mean the plastic kind. They're made out of a really thin plastic that's very pliable and is not very durable at all. And so, while it's lightweight, it is not sturdy. There are hinges in this computer right here that run your, like where your screen attaches obviously to the bottom, the actual computer, and those hinges tend to rip out of the back plastic of the computer. This is the same freaking computer, branded slightly differently, only this one has a better processor inside of it. This is not a Vostro, this is an Inspiron. Inspiron and Vostro, it could probably be used interchangeably. This computer here has a 7730U with 16 gigs of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD. Okay, this is on a deal right now for $499. This says that it's normally $800. That is also not true. This laptop usually runs about $550. What's going on here is that a lot of these companies are starting to mark up these laptops and say, hey, these are great deals because it's normally an $800 computer. That's just not the case, okay? $499 to $550 is usually about the normal price range for this particular computer. But even so, it's still a better deal than what you're getting on Amazon. Amazon is telling you, okay, here is I gotta close this HP. I'm gonna keep opening the same stupid computer. Amazon is telling you, okay, here is a computer for $650, and this is what it has. It has a Core i5-1334U. An i5 is a mid-range processor. Does it beat the i7-1250U? Probably, but the 1250U was a previous generation. So you really, it's not much of a comparison, okay? The Inspiron here, the Inspiron has a 7730U, a Ryzen 7 7730U, which means that it is a previous generation processor, but it's also in line with the i7, okay? So you're getting a better deal. This is $499. The build quality of this laptop is the exact same, and then you're also getting a 1 terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of RAM, and a top-of-the-line processor. Like, come on. Now, granted, all of it is still wrapped in a pretty cheaply made package. So instead of buying this computer, what I would probably recommend is you scroll down just a little bit further and find a metal version of or an aluminum version of the Dell laptop that won't come apart on you. Because that's the problem, is these laptops are cheap, and they're definitely not worth $650. This is not a $900 laptop. They're feeding you some BS. So don't go for it. This is a bad deal, straight up. From experience, and also being the one that repairs them, you can also get, if you really want an i5, go to Best Buy on any given day and pick this laptop up for $350, because that's the real price of this laptop, $350. Moving on. The Lenovo IdeaPad Slim, and we still have that stupid fruit fly circle in my head, and I might lose it. Alright, so we all kind of have an idea about how I feel about Lenovo. I have had beef with Lenovo in the past over some of their build quality stuff. But let's actually review what is up with this computer and if this is a good deal, okay? Lenovo laptop computer, Intel 10 core i7-13620H, Beat Ultra 7255U, 40 gig DDR5 RAM, 1 terabyte PCIe SSD, 15-inch FHD plus Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, Type-C Copilot AI for business and home, Luna Gray, Windows 11 Pro. All right, that's a mouthful. All right, so let's talk for a minute about the Intel 10 core i7-13620H. That is a processor from 2023, guys. 2023. And it supposedly beats the Ultra 7 255U. Now, I haven't really reviewed the Ultra 7 255U and its specs and how it performs. I guess I could believe it. Intel's been having some trouble lately, so it's definitely possible that it beats it. Is it likely? Nah. It's a 2-year-old CPU that's in this computer, but they're still saying that, it's beating the current CPU that's available on the market. 40 gigs of DDR5 RAM, that's kind of a strange amount, which means that it's probably soldered to the board, which also means for you that upgradability of your RAM is not going to be possible, because if it's soldered to the board and it's 40 gigs, that means, if something goes wrong with some memory, you're not going to be able to replace it. Kind of a drawback, but not the worst thing in the world. It's actually going that way a lot these days, where memory is soldered to boards, more common than not. Okay, a 1 terabyte PCIe SSD, that's just your NVMe SSD. That's pretty normal. That's what I would expect. A 1 terabyte SSD is pretty standard. It's no different than back in the day. You used to buy a computer and it had a 1 terabyte hard drive. I think we're heading that way. You know, for power users, this might be a little bit closer to what you're looking for. You know, the last PC that we looked at was definitely more for the average kind of everyday user, you know, the person who's going to be typing up Word docs and doing that kind of thing. And then also checking email and, you know, writing people back and maybe playing a game or two that are pretty light duty. This is, you know, if you look at it, it's kind of advertising that it's a gaming PC. Obviously got a rocket chip on there. It's supposed to say, oh, this is fast, and it performs well. So Wi-Fi 6, it's kind of an older standard. Not older, but it's the last generation Wi-Fi. Bluetooth 5.2, pretty standard. Type-C, Copilot, AI for business. Okay, so all this, I want you to take everything behind the Type-C comma is probably a load of BS. Okay, Copilot AI, that's in every Windows OS for Windows 11 right now. It's just being installed. It's just part of it. So even if you don't want Copilot, congratulations. You get it regardless. For business and home, who knows what that means? Like, Copilot's just available for everybody, okay? Luna gray is the color, okay? And then that's probably not BS. It's probably true. And then Windows 11 Pro. I find it hard to believe that it's actually running Windows 11 Pro, just because the first listing that we picked out here is not running Windows 11 Pro. It's running Windows 11 Home. However, this listing does match, and it says Windows 11 Pro down in the description, as well as right here in the title of the product. So that being said, let's review everything about this computer, okay? The Lenovo, again, we're going to have issues with probably parts if something does go bad on it, because we have to order it from China. Not unusual. The IdeaPad is kind of the budget line of Lenovo's laptops, so it's definitely not top of the line. You know, you probably want to stick closer to like ThinkPads or... oh gosh, I have a Lenovo in here right now, and it's just a standard Lenovo laptop, and even it's a little bit higher quality than an IdeaPad. 15.3 inches, pretty standard laptop size. Hard disk size, 1 terabyte. Obviously, it's not a hard disk, it's an NVMe drive, or at least you kind of hope so, because a hard disk would be ridiculous. CPU model, Core i7. We talked about that that's a 2-year-old generation CPU model. RAM size, 40 gigs. Again, strange size. Typically, you'll see them in multiples of 8, so 8, 16, 24, 32, things like that. Actually, it's more 8, 16, 32, 64 is usually what I see. So, and then let's go down here to the actual about this item section. So it looks like you get a 1920 by 1200 display, which is interesting. 300 nits anti-glare webcam, includes a shutter to maintain privacy, and it's a 720 webcam. They're not saying anything fancy about it. Windows 11 Pro 64 English Luna Gray. The IdeaPad Slim features a full keyboard and number pad, perfect for spreadsheets and document work. Optimized for school education designers, professionals, small business programmers, streaming, video conference, and online classes, remote learning, and Zoom meeting. Yep, and that's probably true. I mean, those are all really good applications for this laptop, with the exception of maybe a streamer. And maybe when they're talking about streaming, they're talking about just like streaming Netflix or Hulu or something like that. So this says product videos, and then the first thing that pops up is the Dell laptop, which I find funny, because you can see the Dell logo on the back of that computer right there. Let's look at the specs down below. We get an SD card reader, high definition audio, HD, 65 watt power adapter. Yeah, so I mean this looks pretty standard. Pretty standard laptop. Just has a little bit better of a processor in it, which, you know, I can't fault them for that. It's got mostly good reviews. Lenovo is generally a pretty good computer brand, at least if you're going to, if you're not going to have any parts to order or things like that, you know, it's usually pretty solid. So if you take care of it, it will take care of you, I think is really the best way for me to put that. When you have a computer like this, you just have to be careful not to drop it, break it, spill things on it, that kind of thing. Don't rip the lid off, because that cable that runs between the screen and the base of the laptop is a pain to find. So, and that runs your webcam as well as your screen. So, not the greatest. But that, for the most part, covers what I wanted to cover today, which is the best Prime Day deals on actual Microsoft laptops. We could hit Chromebooks. Personally, Chromebooks are just what they are. They're a budget laptop, and those budget laptops are just budget laptops. They're nothing more. You know, you can see that there's an Intel Celeron. This one has an N200, which is better than the N100 that's living on this Ultrabook up here. And then, you know, there's other Chromebooks, like this 14-inch one has a Core i3. So if you see a repeat of like Core i3 and N100 or Celeron like you do down here, you can pretty much guarantee that those laptops up here are not actually laptops, but more like what we used to call what do we call those? Webbooks? Netbooks. That's what we call them. Netbooks back in the day. So just a Windows machine running a very basic processor that's not going to really give you a great deal. So if you want substitutes for every one of these, I can make another video where I actually walk you through some of the better choices that you could make in as opposed to these. The Lenovo IdeaPad Slim 3 seems like a solid buy. The Dell is simply a ripoff because $649 is just way too much for that laptop. Acer Aspire 3, not a bad computer for $400. 11% off is not a huge price drop, and like I said, you could probably go into Walmart and pick this thing up for $350 easy, because Walmart carries the Acer line pretty much all the time, and you know there's going to be competitors to Amazon's Prime Days. You know, they're kind of taking advantage of the fact a little bit that you don't know the price all the time, because it's not like you're shopping for laptops every day. But take it from someone who works with customers every day, recommends computers to customers almost every day, that it's something that you want to definitely be vigilant about, because you don't want to get taken for a computer for more than it's worth just because you think it's on a sale. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We appreciate you subscribing to the channel. We're up over 1,000 now, so that's awesome. If you can keep us going, the next step for us is going to be hitting that 2,000 mark. And that's it.